one. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 229 of the Classic Elite Podcast. My name is Scott. I've got Dustin with me. What's going on, man?
Same old. Glad to be back.
Yes, I'm excited to have you here. Zarek did a great job last week filling in for you. Yeah. I don't know if you had a chance to listen, but he did awesome. This week, though, as promised, we have two awesome guests. Pretty much Dustin and I's inspiration for doing this show. So, big welcome to Hugues and Rob from the Retro League. What's going on, guys?
Not much. Just glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining. What about you, Hugh? How you doing?
Wait, what did I agree to do? Oh, hey, no, how's it going?
You've caused me to spend years and hours upon hours doing something like this. So,
oh, that's cool. That's good to hear. Bad. It depends on your point of view, I guess.
It's a good one. You guys have done a lot of cool stuff for us, so it's exciting to have you on the show. I know it's a yearly tradition now. We live do your NCAA brackets every summer, which is a lot of fun. Dustin and I try to make predictions beforehand and all that. And Dustin and I met on your forums. So
Nice.
Going way back. So I guess, Hugh, for anybody that's not familiar with the Retro League, do you want to tell us a little about yourself and the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing the podcast since October 2009. I believe is the correct date, like October 14th, if you want to get specific. And we're a weekly podcast, and we mostly talk about retro gaming news, which seems a little bit like an oxymoron, but every week there's just a ton of retro gaming news out there, like re-releases, community news. More and more lately, it seems like controversies.
Oh, yeah.
And then we feature, we do a segment where we feature the worst deal on either eBay or Indiegogo that week. And then we throw in a game review at the end. And we each pick a game that's usually more than 10 years old. We've been debating whether or not we're going to start allowing GameCube games on the show, but usually it's like Dreamcast and older games.
I don't think it's offensive to start including. I mean, if you now have a full steady job and it came out before puberty, you might as well count it, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, on the GameCube, I was.
No, I mean for
some people, I suppose. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like if you're 25 now or whatever.
Yeah, I mean the GameCube came out in 2001.
Yes. So
yeah, that's quite a while ago. If it's more than 3 presidential administrations ago, maybe that's a good.
Oh, I like that. And Rob, what about yourself, man? What kind of games do you like to play, and all that kind of stuff, and a little about yourself?
Well, old games.
Got it. Okay. Well, first topic of the show.
I lucked out in that I started collecting games when they were really cheap. So back in the 90s, you could get NES games, Atari 2600 games for pretty cheap. And that's where I built up a small collection. But even through the 2000s, it was still reasonable to collect for Super Nintendo or Genesis, N64, all that stuff. And I don't know, I've always enjoyed looking back on the good old days, but as we were kind of discussing, the good old days depends on when you were born, really. Mm-hmm. But as we've been doing the podcast now for so many years, I found that I actually really enjoy uncovering things I didn't know about games from the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
That's what got me hooked on your show, was talking about all these games that I hadn't experienced yet. When you talk about getting these deals, were you garage sailing back then, or were you just going to Funko Land, or did you have a half price books or a Bookman's or something like that you could go to?
It was more stuff like Funko Land, and then it became mostly pawn shops, actually.
Okay.
Pawn shops and the occasional thrift store, but those. The ones around where I live don't usually have a lot of video games.
Good deal. All right. Well, I have two quick corrections from last week that Zarek and I were talking about. We couldn't remember the name of the guy named Howard that was instrumental in Nintendo America back in the day. He kept swearing it was Philip something, and I'm like, no, it's Howard something. And then he jokingly said, watch it be Howard Phillips, and sure enough, that's his name. I kept thinking of the name of the guy that programmed like E.T. and Yar's Revenge. Howard Warshaw was the name I kept coming up with. But no, Howard Phillips was the Nintendo America guy. And also, we talked about a retired bald gaming journalist, and someone in the chat, Wrecker, had mentioned it. Went over my head, but it was Adam Sessler. I couldn't believe that. I almost not have been listening to Zarek very well at the time. But someone in chat picked up on it right away, so there's our corrections from last week. Well, I guess to get started with this week's news, it just so happens that it's a lot of retro-themed news, so we have appropriate guest, Dustin.
Yeah.
Did you happen to see this first item in the show notes?
Yeah, somebody made part of the original Tomb Raider playable in a browser.
With controller support.
Yeah, with controller support, which is awesome.
Had you guys seen this yet?
I had not.
No, I'm opening up the source right now, though, trying to figure out how they pulled this off.
Did you, Hugh, did you grow up, I guess you would have been old enough that you might have been in high school when Tomb Raider was real big. Did you play it at all?
No, actually, I was working in a video game store when
Okay.
Tomb Raider came out. I was, I was out of high school for sure, but not yet in college. I was sort of floating around doing nothing in particular, other than working at a video game store.
Your
Tomb Raider came
ebook
out
about
on the
those years.
Saturn. Right, and it wasn't like a. I guess it was probably a bigger hit on the on the PlayStation than the Saturn. It was the Saturn, of course, was outsold by the PlayStation 3-1 at that point, so it wasn't like a huge hit. But most people just, I don't know. I think the original appeal of the game was not the gameplay style.
It was the boobs.
It was the polygonal,
The Madonna boobs.
Yeah.
Hugh, what's the name of your ebook? I read that a few years ago about your years working. Yeah. It's awesome.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I wrote an ebook called My Loser Phase, Reflections on Video Game Retail from 1992 to 1997. So it was like the period of time when I was out of high school, didn't really have anything going on. Kind of worked in a game store for a while and then realized this was not a good career option.
Is that still available?
The game store job? Yeah. No, the book. Yeah, it's on. Yeah, I have like a free version on my website, and then there's out on the Kindle, on Amazon Kindle store, there's a 99-cent version because that's the lowest you can price a book on the Kindle store.
Well worth it.
Yeah, well worth it.
I don't have too many things in my Kindle store, but that's always one of them. It's such a small file, though. I also keep it installed. It's a good read. So, yeah, I don't know, Rob. Did you ever play Tomb Raider back in the day?
Not back in the day, but I definitely, as soon as it came out, I was aware that this was a cultural phenomenon. It was part of a sort of gaming renaissance where in the 90s, it wasn't just, gaming wasn't just a hobby for nerds. Suddenly it was cool. And Tomb Raider was one of those great examples of, you didn't have to be a nerd to enjoy this. Quote-unquote normal people.
Right, normal, sort of borderline pervy people could enjoy Tomb Raider.
Yes. I never really played it, but I remember my friend having it, and I feel like some people played it on PC. Was there a PC port of it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first I saw of it, and I think I remember in 96-ish, I think me and my friends were noting the similarities between that and Super Mario 64, and that they were 3D platforming, which was really new back in those days.
Hey, Iceman, thanks for joining the chat. So I don't know. I thought that was quite remarkable. I heard some other people talking about it, and they said it actually plays quite well. It's maybe just the first level or something, or kind of like the demo of the game.
Okay.
It's not the full-fledged game, but it works, which is awesome.
It's been 21 years, right? So I would assume even a low-end computer today can run something in a browser that was 21 years old pretty reliably.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I just always think of browsers of being even still so low-level tech that it blows my mind when it's powerful enough to run a full system that we would have paid hundreds of dollars for when we were kids.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're right. I mean, look at our Google document that we have open right now that all of us are looking at and able to edit and change. That's incredible in real time. So the next thing in the news, this is really cool. Zelda Breath of the Wild is a huge game right now, and somebody is working on putting the game into the original sprite palette. It really looks like the original NES Zelda. And I heard that Nintendo used that idea and the general mapping of the game in an 8-bit style before they kind of fleshed everything out. And I think this person might have taken that and run with it.
Yeah, we talked about that on the Retro League a little bit. But really, if you look at this article, like a better title would be Prequel to Nintendo Takedown Letter. I mean, again, unless this guy is located in, I don't know, what's a country where takedown letters don't take effect?
Russia, China.
Yeah. Unless he's somewhere there where he's out of the reach of Nintendo's lawyers, this thing is not ever going to see the light of day.
No, the screenshots are awesome.
Yeah.
Do either of you guys have the Switch? Have you gotten Breath of the Wild on Wii U?
No, I have it on Wii U, and that's about the only game I've been playing since it came out.
I think an 8-bit version could be quite cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'd say I feel like I'm a little more than halfway through the game. I'm excited to finish. It's really good. Hugh, have you ever played like a Souls type of game that has this style of combat before?
What do you mean by the style of combat? Like where
every enemy is really difficult? Yeah, stuff can potentially break.
Yeah, I'm kind of at the point in the game where most of the enemies aren't difficult anymore.
Okay.
And they were like when you start off, it's very much. I mean, you're getting killed by the weakest enemies in the game at the very beginning.
Yeah, and different.
Right, you've got like a tree branch, and you're running after
yes
enemies who have clubs, so they clearly can overpower you.
But like sometimes, depending on the type of weapon you're holding, the animation changes, which changes the timing of the attack on the enemy.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've gotten into a game where that's been so prevalent, where depending on what enemy I come up to, I actually toggle to a different weapon.
Yeah, because like the one-handed weapons and the two-handed weapons function very differently.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some enemies that are really, really hard to beat with the two-handed weapon. I actually prefer the two-handed weapons overall because they generally do way more damage than the one-handed ones. But then you can't use your shield when you have a two-handed weapon.
Yeah.
Although lately, the more I play, the more I've become like an archer. Like is that a thing, like archer style player? I think I use the bow and arrow for nearly everything in the game now.
Yeah, that's the way that I cheese through really tough enemies. Is I just blast them with ice arrows and hack them while they're frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can use time. You can use time stop on any enemy too if you really want to be cheap.
Yeah.
You just time stop every enemy and hack on them until they die.
Have you done the amiibo stuff?
Yeah.
I guess you can really. I haven't, but if you've beaten Twilight Princess and you have that amiibo on the Wii U, I guess you can have the wolf help you out tremendously. It'll
can. I
kill
actually
enemies
don't
and stuff for you.
too cheap. Yeah. The wolf is because I tried at the beginning of the game just to see what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and at the beginning, Link is really, really weak, and then Wolf Link appears, and he's got like 2 bars of heart containers, and he can take out every enemy in one hit. You could just coast through the game with the wolf at your side here. It's really, really easy. And I didn't realize, I read later on that I was looking like an amiibo guide because I wanted to see if it was worth buying the Breath of the Wild amiibos. Like there's specific amiibos for the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it mentioned in there that, yeah, if you've gotten up to the 100 level dungeon in Twilight Princess, then you have Strong Wolf Link. And if you didn't get that far in the game, then you have Wimpy Wolf Link, I guess.
Yeah, my friend was trying to explain it to me. There's depending on what you did in the previous game. Sounds cool though. I mean, I guess I'm glad that it's not impossible without it. It would suck if you felt obligated to have an amiibo to finish the game.
Yeah, I'd use him if I was like I mean, I don't know how far I'm trying to give away any spoilers, but there's like you can get items to upgrade your equipment.
Yeah.
So like if I just was on like, okay, I got to go get 20 things to upgrade my equipment. Maybe I would just bring Wolf along for that to make it faster.
Yeah, absolutely. That's totally reasonable.
And then the other, like the first of all, like this is where I'm kind of an idiot. Like I walked into a Target a few months ago, and they must have had 200,000 Legend of Zelda amiibos. Like Ocarina of Time Link, 8-Bit Link, Wind Waker Link. I already had Wind Waker Link, luckily. And then like all the different Breath of the Wild ones before the game was released. So I didn't even know what all these things were yet.
But now,
like, oh, that's pretty cool. Well, I'll come back and buy those later. And now those things are sold out everywhere. I mean, it's all just scalpers, I guess. Maybe I should have thought of this if I had. Well, I guess my time was worth less than it currently is. Like I could have, made $5 selling each of these.
Yeah, right.
Because the other Zelda amiibos give you like items. So if you have I have a Wind Waker Link, and every time you use it, you can use it once per day. You might get like a bow or special arrows or whatever, or a new weapon, that kind of stuff.
I kind of like that. There's like a daily lottery kind of slot machine pool. Good deal. And then, Rob, did you happen to see the next news item that we have here about the 10 uses of the Konami Code?
Yes.
I didn't know some of these.
Yeah, I'm glad it isn't just like, NES games, because that was, back in the day, a lot of people called it the Contra Code, and I was always the kid who was like, but it's in Ninja Turtles, it's in Gradius. But because it's such a meme, it's been in a lot of other games too.
Yeah, like we have Rocket League, which it says that the list starts off with a little bit of fun. I'm inputting the Konami Code. During the title screen will cause the menu to change its logo to the lesser-known Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars, which was the PS3 name of the Rocket League first go. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 has a Konami Code. I've never heard of Boktai, The Sun is in Your Hand. Have any of you guys ever heard of that?
Yeah, I'd never played it, but I think that was a GBA game that had some kind of light sensor, so you were supposed to play it in direct sunlight.
Oh, okay. Was that... That feels almost Japanese only. Was that like a game you had to import?
No, it came over here.
Really? Wow. I don't feel like we get that level of gimmick.
Yeah, it was Hideo Kojima. That's how it made it over here.
Oh, okay. Was it really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I can't tell when you drop his name next to something that's bizarre. You don't know if it's a joke or real. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World had it. Like you had mentioned, Rob, Gradius 3. The Bank of Canada game. Or no, just the Bank of Canada. There's no rule that says the Konami Code needs to be used in a game. Earlier this month, the Bank of Canada revealed a new $10 banknote. Inputting the Konami Code adds an extra dash of bizarre patriotism by summoning a horde of confetti and playing the boisterous Canadian national anthem. That's pretty rad.
For the record, Canadian bank game sounds like something that would have been produced for the CDI.
or released by Hideo Kojima.
Yeah.
Yes. Like you had mentioned, Rob, pretty much all the Ninja Turtles beat-em-ups. Zone of the Enders 2. I've never heard of this game. Should I have, Dustin?
The first one was pretty good. The second one was somewhat underrated. It's another Hideo Kojima game.
There it is. Yes, that's first thing in that. If I would have read these descriptions. Assassin's Creed 3 is another one, and then this is the lamest number 1 that they could have listed, and it's Contra.
Yeah.
Like, the whole reason this article exists is because of that game. So I thought that was interesting. And then the next news item that is pretty cool, Night Trap, which I'm sure everyone here is familiar with, is getting a physical PS4 port for the 25th anniversary. It's being published by a company we've talked about before. It's called Limited Run Games, and they usually take download-only games and for the Vita and do like a 2,000 copy run, and there's only one run, and again, it's usually ports of like indie games, and they're doing Night Trap. I've never played it. I've only heard it talked about, but I never had. What was it on the Saturn or the Sega CD?
Yeah,
Sega CD, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Sega CD, but it was ported to PC, 32X, 3DO, maybe the Saturn too. It sure seems like it would have been ported to the Saturn too.
32X, really? I'll have to look at footage.
It's not noticeably better than the original version.
Wow, really? Well, I would have thought it would just be worse, because that's just barely. It's like an overclocked Genesis.
Well, no, I mean it's an add-on to the Genesis.
Yeah,
so it's got a slightly better resolution and slightly better color palette, but you're not really going to notice the difference.
Does it have more RAM or extra sound channels or anything?
Well, it uses. So someone who's like a tech spec nerd will probably jump on this, but I mean there's RAM built, there's more memory built into the 32X, but it's really mostly using the Genesis sound processor. It might have an additional sound processor, but I don't think so, because just the way the 32X hooks into the Genesis, it's just like a video cable between the 32X and the Genesis, and all the sound is still coming out of the Genesis. So if it has one, it's not used. Like, I don't really notice a big sound quality difference in 32X games.
Yeah, then you're probably right that it's just that Yamaha chip or whatever in the Genesis kind of powering everything. That's pretty cool. I don't know, Dustin. Do you have any interest in picking this up? I know you're not going to sit there and refresh trying to pick up a copy, but would you be tempted by this? It seems weird enough for you.
Yeah, a little. It's so dumb. It's awesome.
Right.
So I kind of want one.
I've only seen video of it. I've never. Was this part of? I know there was a big controversy around it. Was this brought in when, like, Tipper Gore was going after video games in the 90s, or was this after that? Was this part of that?
Yeah, it was Joseph Lieberman, but it was this. This was one of the.
Oh, it was Lieberman? Okay.
This is one of the big ones.
Okay. It did, and then that's where the ESRB came from, that hearing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, it was largely they misinterpreted the game. They took like a scene from the game and said it was a woman being sexually assaulted.
Oh, okay.
Which it is. I mean, if you watch the game, I never would have drawn that conclusion. A lot of these, this is, a thought I've heard about like these congressional hearings is that when you have people who maybe are looking for, adult content, they're going to find it somewhere. Yeah. And I mean, Night Trap, I've said before, like a commercial for a Saw movie is 1,000 times worse than Night Trap.
Yeah. Tipper Gore was music. That's what she was going after. All right. And then the last thing, Dustin, you had this in our potential for YouTube channel of the week.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to feature this retrospective from Easy Allies.
Yeah. I like it.
Deus Ex it's a 2-part, like 45-minute total production going over Deus Ex. Did you play any of the original things that they had talked about in part 1?
Yes, I've played a little bit of the original game, and I played a little bit of Invisible War. I never beat either of those two. Okay. But I played a few hours of both, I'd say.
It's pretty cool history behind...
Yeah.
There's a couple times where Deus Ex just almost didn't happen. It's incredible that Square kept it alive when they purchased the property, because they just acquired that studio, and or they acquired like the portfolio of IPs, and this was in it, and they just happened to like what had been done so far.
And just to speak on Easy Allies, like this is, if you liked game trailers, retrospectives, this is that.
100%.
The only thing different is the title.
Yes.
It is exhaustive, fantastic production values, like excellently written and voiced, just A+ all around, excellent retrospective.
What's neat is they split up the research between all of them. So each member would play a full game and write out the script for it. and you can't tell that 4 different people wrote that script.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Were you guys fans of game trailers back in the day? Did you ever watch Pop Fiction or any of the retrospectives?
Well, I was a big fan of the retrospectives, especially with, I don't know if it was the first one, but when they did the Final Fantasy series.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like that was such a great like documentary, basically, about this like icon of video game history.
Absolutely. So, Rob, if you're not familiar, you got to go look at Easy Allies on YouTube. Yeah, fantastic. So go look at the retrospective over there. So that's it for news, guys. So I have something that we are going to do because it was such a short news week, and I have 3 video game encyclopedias with me that I am going to have fight to the death for bragging rights, and we're going to play a little game here. It's going to be Jeopardy style, and these are kind of ridiculous questions, I think, maybe. So I think you'll get some of them, but we'll see. All right. JeopardyLabs.com is what I'm going to cheat with from a score perspective. Jeopardy Labs. All right. Okay, 3 teams. We have Dustin, Rob, and Hugh.
Are we supposed to join the site?
No. I'm just going to do this on my own.
Okay.
And I don't think we should have like a full buzzer system. I'm just going to give each of you a chance, and then say your own name if they get it wrong. If Dustin would go and he'd get it wrong, and then it's up to you and Rob to steal the points, just say Hugh or say Rob when you need to buzz in. And the Skype gods will determine who I hear first.
Okay.
So let's randomly go. All right, Hugh, you can pick a category, just 1 to 500. We'll make it simple that way.
Okay. What are the categories?
There aren't any. The category is 100 or 500, and I think it's more difficult as it goes on.
Okay, then I'll start with 100.
100. Okay, so Hugh, the very first question that we have is, what licensed property did Nintendo lose before turning the game into Donkey Kong?
What licensed property did they lose? Oh, it was Popeye. What is Popeye?
It is. You don't have to answer in the form of a question. That is correct. And that's about as easy as it's going to get, I think.
Oh, damn.
Okay.
Because then they got Popeye back, and then they made a Popeye game.
Yes, and they actually
It
did.
looks like Donkey Kong.
Yeah, which is awesome. Full circle. Okay, well, JeopardyLabs.com is failing me in the live thing, so Hugh's got 100. Dustin and Rob. So, Dustin.
Oh, boy.
100 is still on the board, and then there is a 2, 3, 4, and 500 point category left.
Okay.
So how difficult do you want this to be?
Let's go middle of the road. Let's go 300.
300, okay. It's funny because this guy's in the news today. Didn't work out. I didn't plan for it to be this way. Pat Cashman is the voice announcer for Disney's Bill Nye the Science Guy, and he's also the announcer of this popular video game fighting franchise.
I'm going to go with Marvel versus Capcom.
That is incorrect.
Ooh.
Any guesses from you or
Rob?
Rob?
Get it wrong?
Yeah, for Dustin for sure.
I'm not going to guess then, but I think I know.
Rob, you got a guess?
Is it Tekken?
You wish. No, it's not. I know. King of Fighters is your jam. Yeah. It is Smash Brothers. Was that what you were going to say, Hugh?
No, it was not, so I'm glad I didn't guess.
All right. All right, Rob.
That's not a fighting game.
Okay. I should have just said video game franchise.
I just want to tell you one thing. Like when I went to Midwest Gaming Classic a couple weekends ago, one of the things they had there was, I forget if I talked about this on the show, an Amiibo tournament where people brought their amiibos, and then you walked up to the Wii U and you scanned your amiibo, and then they fought each other in Smash Brothers. So you didn't even have to like touch a controller to play it. That's why I would say it's not a fighting game.
That's fair. my friend, they do gambling with them, and they'll do like a 2-hour marathon match, and then go play something else and come back to see who won, and everybody pays like $1 a character to get in. All right, Rob, what category? Yeah, what point value do you want? I guess that's the better way to say it.
Just give me the 200.
200. Okay. Which arcade game in the 1980s caused a shortage of 100 yen coins in Japan? It was also a here's a hint. It's also a very popular game in the U.S., and it was commonly cloned and ripped off.
Space Invaders?
Bravo, Rob. Bravo.
Yes.
Very good. All right, Hugh.
I'll go 500.
500. Ooh. All right.
That's what the dice told me.
In Final Fantasy II on the Game Boy, the banana smuggler was originally this kind of smuggler before Nintendo's censorship guidelines forced a change.
What would people smuggle in Japan that it would be not okay to smuggle in America? He was a, you said banana smuggler?
He was.
I'm going to go with cigarette smuggler.
That is incorrect. Dustin?
Is banana hammock smuggler?
Nintendo, I don't know if they would have censored that or not. Any guesses from you guys?
I got nothing.
I just thought this was fascinating. Opium.
Whoa.
Right?
Okay.
So that jumped out to me.
Just going right for it.
That's what I was like, really? They had an opium smuggler in Final Fantasy II, huh? Wow. Okay.
Well, so I felt like I should know this one, but I didn't know the actual origins that much. But I knew that was based on like a Japanese detective novel. But that was just like one part of the game, like one level, basically.
Well, there was an opium level?
It was supposed to be a detective level.
They have like opium dens and like little sprites getting all ripped. All right, I think that's you, Dustin. How ballsy are you feeling?
So can I pick between 1 through 5 again?
You can.
Okay.
Yes, and just to give a breakdown, my friend's prophecy may have been true. We have Hugh at -400, Dustin at -300, Rob at -100.
Rob, you're winning right now. Well done.
Which one did you say? I'm sorry.
Let me go. Opium. Good gravy. 500.
500. On May 7th, 1999, this was the first video game that was physically taken to space.
May 7th, 1999. Tetris.
Oh, that is incorrect. I'm not hearing any guesses. So
I was going to go Tetris too.
StarCraft. Wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, I never would have guessed that either.
It kind of makes sense. I would expect an astronaut to enjoy StarCraft. Dustin, 800. Nice job. All right, Rob, what are you thinking next?
Give me another 200.
Another 200. 200. This is the last 200. Sony bought the design for the PlayStation 2, like the shell of the thing, from this company as it was going bankrupt.
Huh. Huh.
For all remaining questions after this, I will be giving hints.
Okay. I have no idea.
Dustin, you look like you had a guess.
Napster.
Atari.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, there was a white like shell for like a 030MX Atari PC.
Huh.
Weird. I
Yeah,
had no
In
idea.
hindsight, that was probably guessable because Atari. Yeah,
Bankrupt was the.
Yeah, see, I was thinking Atari, but I'm like, well, didn't they go bankrupt in like '98? But they probably went bankrupt multiple times. So
Yeah.
They go
Yeah.
bankrupt every like 5 years or so.
Yeah,
That was what was tripping me up because I was like, that seems too late for Atari to even have existed.
Yes. So, all right. Well, okay. We get hints from now on. So Hugh.
I'll take a 300.
Okay, that was a 300. Great. What '90s movie was the school in Silent Hill 1 based on?
What '90s movie was the school in Silent Hill 1? I only know schools from
The '90s
80s
movie.
movies.
Yeah, the '90s movie does have a substantial amount of the movie in the school.
Huh? Have I seen this movie?
I would be shocked if you haven't.
Okay.
You've definitely heard the memes that come from it.
Memes that come from oh, geez. Now I'm even more confused than before. Is it The Craft?
It is Kindergarten Cop.
I knew that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also thought that was an '80s movie. So
You had me second guess. I was like, was that an 80s movie? I think it was early 90s. So, all right, Dustin.
negative 1,000 now.
Something like that, yes.
I'll go middle of the road again, 300.
300. We are out of 300s. So we'll go 400?
400.
All right, what two scientists did Capcom base Dr. Wily and Dr. Light from?
Dr. Wily was Einstein, and Dr. Light, the famous scientist, Santa Claus.
Edison. Light. Edison.
That was my second.
Good job on Einstein. I guess that had to deal with World War II stuff. Like, they blame Einstein for the atomic bombs.
Okay.
Well, he is partially responsible.
Yes. He did. Yeah. So,
That hair.
all right. Well, the next one doesn't get that wrong. All right, scores are so bad. We're just gonna see if anybody can get any of the rest of these. We only have a couple left.
All right.
Okay.
All right, Rob. Miyamoto originally based Bowser on which animal?
Huh. Which animal? A turtle?
Nope. Hugh, Dustin, got any guesses?
It was not based on the turtle. That's Is he based on? Is this a real animal or some
Yes,
sort of like
yes, this
mythological animal?
exists. Very popular in American folklore. Rob, you can jump back in if you think of it. Paul Bunyan's It's an Ox.
Oh, it's an ox. Paul Bunyan. Yeah, he says he's not blue.
I didn't say... I know. That was my hint, was the...
Oh, okay. It was Paul Bunyan.
yeah.
All right.
Just an ox, I guess. And he still retains some of those features.
He has horns.
And we are...
And he's
Some of his
shoots
face
fireballs.
stuff. Okay, here's the last one. Which Disney character did Miyamoto base Link on?
Peter Pan.
Yes. Okay, here was the tiebreaker, assuming there was a tiebreaker. The tiebreaker was the closest guess without going over. It's estimated that the human race has spent how many years playing Angry Birds collectively?
320,000.
$1.
That's actually 200,000 years. I would have never guessed that much. So Hugh, actually, I'll give you points for that.
Yeah.
So
Just at my
Hugues.
office, I've seen people play 320,000 hours
It's
in meetings.
impressive. So, all right. Well, sorry that it was that difficult. I blame
we
Did
did
You
really
Know
well.
Gaming Memes. Huh?
I think we did really well.
Yeah, well, I'll make them easier next time. But that's going to be it for the game. Sorry for the difficulty. If any of our listeners out there knew any of the answers, let us know. I'll buy you a game on Steam. Dustin, for YouTube channel of the week, who are you going to feature?
Let's do a channel I recently came upon called K-Mac Time. I found him by looking for 10 NES hidden gems. And
Is that what you typed into the search?
Yeah, well, NES hidden gems, and 10 of them came up. And that video is excellent. It's in the show notes, and his channel primarily goes over basically all kinds of pop culture. Like, he does video game stuff, but he also has stuff on shows. I had one that I was going to feature, but I closed it. Other than just because the name of the video was hilarious.
Getting beat 'em ups as your username is pretty good in YouTube gaming.
Yeah, right?
He must be.
Maybe he'll be next time.
Yeah. So out of the SNES hidden gems, what was one that stood out to you? Like, did you find one that you ended up buying?
No. I honestly...
Have you uncovered all the SNES gems, Dustin?
Basically, yeah. I usually don't hear any new ones whenever I hear, like, hey, here's hidden gems. Because, I mean, well, there's hidden stuff that costs like $1 million now. But, like, a good, cheap game, which actually SNES Drunk did a really good video on.
I was just going to bring that up, that he just did a top 10 games that are $10 or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Yeah, so go to youtube.com/beatemups and check out the Hidden Gems video. I'll have that linked in the show notes. So let's get into what we've been playing. So Rob, what have you been into lately?
Well, just last night I was playing a little bit of Bomberman 94, and that came about because I was watching one of my favorite YouTube shows, Continue.
Oh, yeah.
And they recently did the newest Bomberman game, the one for the Switch, Bomberman R.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks kind of cool. It's still Bomberman, but I was watching that with my girlfriend, and she was like, "I want to play that," and I was like, "Well, I happen to have quite a few Bomberman games." But like a lot of people who aren't that into gaming, she was kind of new to it, so she was like, "Well, I don't want to have to fight against you if you've been playing all these Bomberman games." And I was like, "Well, there's a couple of them where you can play on a team." So Bomberman 94 for the PC engine, not even TurboGrafx, because it didn't actually get a US release on the US TurboGrafx. It did get a US release for the Genesis, though. So Bomberman 94 is basically the same game as Mega Bomberman.
Okay. I had no idea. How are my trivia questions like not being answered? You know that.
Well, if you had asked about Bomberman, I know a few things about that.
I should have known.
But it's a great game. It's so like I had played Super Bomberman 1 and 2 on the Super Nintendo, and then this is really similar to like Bomberman 3 or 4, which again didn't get a US release, was just a Japanese Super Famicom game. So in addition to all the normal Bomberman stuff, now you've got these little kangaroo guys that hatch out of eggs. They're basically like Yoshi. So you can ride around on them. They'll have little extra powers, like they'll let you jump over blocks or explosions, or one of them like runs really fast, or another one can punch bombs. So they're kind of just like more power-ups, but also they give you one extra hit. So normally you get touched by any flame, you're gone. If you're riding one of these guys and get touched by the flame, then the guy is gone, but you still survive. But I've seen it happen, like even last night. If there's a lot of explosions going off, even that won't save you, because your little kangaroo guy will go away, and then as you fall down, you'll fall right onto a flame.
Do these spawn like other power-ups do? Or
yeah.
Okay.
They're always like from a block that you clear away with a flame.
I didn't know if it was like the golden gun, where there was just like that's like the quintessential power up, or if everybody could theoretically get a kangaroo.
Yeah, everybody could, and it's frustrating when the computer gets them because I think Bomberman 94 didn't have any sort of difficulty setting for the computer. The version that I was playing on Virtual Console isn't fully translated, so some of the options I couldn't tell what was going on, but there aren't that many. And also the UI is identical to Mega Bomberman, so I saw a YouTube video of somebody playing that, and then when I went to this, I was like, oh, okay, I can't read this, but I know what the options are for, like, team mode versus normal, and then how many players.
It's like those printouts you can get for Japanese electronics that you just paste over the remote control so you can see what to do.
Yeah, but I like all the variety where you can choose different kinds of Bomberman characters. There's like an old guy, a guy with a mohawk, a robot. So you can have a little more variety other than just they're different colored. And I think they've kept that in most Bomberman games since then.
I heard there was a big update to the Switch version that came out that lowered the resolution but upped the frame rate. And a lot of people that were saying the game didn't feel right before are now really enjoying it. And the example I heard was, I mean, the PC Engine ran it at 60 frames a second, so why is this game not? And they lowered the resolution so they could do that, and most people are saying that it's made a substantial improvement to the feel of the game. I know you always joke that you've been playing 60 frames a second since the 2600.
Yeah, it's forced. You can't not play games at 60 frames per second on the 2600. I suppose there's some things you could do to not, like, to ignore every other frame or something if you were so inclined, but that's why I always find this obsession over 60 frames per second is somehow making a game better. Like, I can understand if a game has terrible frame rate, it might not be fun, or look terrible, but I think it's a very strange obsession.
Yeah, I think it's a fair benchmark. I get more worried about inconsistencies, if it's smooth now and then gets choppy and whatnot. And I will lower resolution to get a better frame rate for something like a Bomberman or like Zelda. I don't really care because it's just fun and beautiful. But if it's a competitive game, I'm gonna want that. I guess the feel. I don't know. What are some other things about like Bomberman 94? Wasn't this the one that had a pretty substantial competitive scene?
Oh, that I don't know.
There was a Bomberman that was a big deal, I guess, before there were esports or whatnot. Jeff Gerstmann from Giant Bomb was like world class in Bomberman at one point when he was an early journalist.
Nice.
I wasn't sure if it was this one or not.
I know. I can't remember if the Saturn Bomberman had an online mode. I don't think so, but I know you could connect a ton of players just offline.
Oh, really?
For one system.
Yeah, he did them locally, like going to a fighting tournament or something like that.
Okay, so that could have been it, though, because that was, at the time, I think it was like the most number of players you could get in a console game. Because, even in the 90s, you could play, like, Quake or something with a high number of players, but, like, on a console that you hooked up to your TV, 4 was usually the max. Mm-hmm. Though, with Bomberman 94, the multi-tab for the TurboGrafx could let you play with 5 players.
Who would have had that controller scheme? How can you daisy chain? Is that how that works?
No, it's a splitter, because Dungeon Explorer supported it.
Oh, okay. I know very little about TurboGrafx 16 and PC Engine.
Now, the Saturn Bomberman is the one where you daisy-chained 4-way adapters.
Okay.
What was it, 16 or something? 12.
Really?
Just a huge number of players on this thing at once.
Yeah. I know the only one that I had played seriously, not that seriously, but competitively online was the one for the Wii, and I don't even remember what that one was called now. Probably like Bomberman Blast or something.
Was it a WiiWare title that had online too, or was it a full release? Okay.
Well, it was a new release for the Wii.
Okay. I mean, but WiiWare was kind of like their indie stuff, but you could also get like physical. You couldn't get a physical copy of a WiiWare game.
Yeah.
But could you get a physical copy of Bomberman on Wii?
I don't think so.
Okay. And then is Bomberman 94, does it say 94 on the box art, or is it like Sonic 06 where...
I'm pretty sure it did say 94, because
okay.
Like Bomberman 93 came out around the same time as Super Bomberman on the Super Nintendo, but they're different games. But I think on the PC Engine and TurboGrafx, that was just what they called it, is Bomberman 93 and then 94.
Gotcha.
And then I'm guessing if if it had sold well enough, there would have been a Bomberman 95.
Okay. To release with Windows, right? Right here in September.
Yep. Yeah. Good old Windows 95.
Good deal. Rob, any other thoughts on Bomberman 94, or have you been playing anything else?
Only playing the occasional Neo Geo fighting game. Still.
I heard you talking about them not differentiating between, on the Switch, retro games and new games.
Yeah.
What SNK games have you picked up?
Well, let's see. A lot of stuff from like before 2000.
Okay.
The biggest increase of my Neo Geo collection actually came from Humble Bundle a year or two ago. And that's what I was playing actually this morning, was playing some King of Fighters 2000 that I picked up from that. But they've got a good selection of Neo Geo games on Steam.
I hadn't paid attention to that.
Yeah. So even the classics like King of Fighters 98 are up there, and that's one of the best places for somebody to start if they're new to the series. But that's another thing that's gone big in terms of esports, is they play the newest King of Fighters games there. But I haven't even played, like, since the series made the jump to polygonal. I've been like surprised that it still works, and it's the same game, but it also just, to me, feels like a different game.
I can see that. King of Fighters always blew me away. There was a Neo Geo machine at the skating rink when we were kids, and those characters were unbelievable to me on that system, or that machine. Good deal. Well, Hugh, what you been playing, man?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, all I've really been playing is Breath of the Wild. Just really to the point of an unhealthy obsession. I just kind of spending all this time trying to like upgrade stuff, and because you don't have to upgrade all the different armor. I'm trying to do the spoiler free, because I know a lot of people are playing through this for the first time as well. I've gone out of my way not to read anything about the game.
I'm doing the same thing.
Right, but when you do a show, you're always looking for news articles, so I see lots of titles about Breath of the Wild that I didn't have to resist clicking, like how to find all X number of shrines, and then I'm like, oh, I know how many shrines there are, which is actually kind of it was both exciting and depressing. So I'm like, well, there only got to be like 2 or 3 left, and then I'm like, oh, yeah, there's like 80 more. Okay.
Yeah. There's this one of my favorite things so far is when I do just end up stumbling across one, and it's hard to not do that and neglect the goal that I had just wanted to get to. It's like, ooh, shiny thing over here.
Yeah, I end up doing that a lot too. Usually getting sidetracked by things, and
they are neat though. Like I really enjoy those puzzles for the most part.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're short, but they're challenging. There's a few of them you can really just break. Like I've solved a few of them in ways that you probably are not supposed to solve them. Like there's a couple shrines I want to go back and read what is the actual solution to them versus what crazy things I did to get through it.
That's one of the beautiful things about the game is you do feel like you're cheating at times or going outside of the scope of what was intended. But that doesn't hold true. You can't continuously use that particular cheese to get through something. It's really brilliantly done that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it works in some spots. I had mentioned before, like the time freeze. I mean, that's kind of a cheap way to get through some of the harder enemies in the game, is you can time freeze them, hit them. You only get like 2 or 3 hits on them, and then you can run off, and then they charge you again. I mean, you can do cheap stuff like that, or you can fight them straight up. I've been just, I got to a point in the game where it's like, okay, I got to go get all the map pieces. So I went and I'm like, well, that should only take me one day. Like maybe I'll take one Saturday and spend 2 or 3 hours. And, that ends up taking a week because some of the map pieces you have to go through quite an ordeal to actually, to actually unlock them. So it's just such an amazingly huge game. And then, my wife kind of thinks the game is funny because from her view of it, the entire point of the game is to upgrade your clothing and make food.
She's not wrong.
Well, no, I agree. It's a big part of the game, but Nintendo, I guess, could make it reminded me the only Sims game I've really played a lot was Sims Castaway.
Okay,
and that's all you do in Sims Castaway is make food and try and build lodging out of things you find.
Yeah, I feel like on paper I wouldn't like Breath of the Wild.
Right? Yeah. I was a little reluctant to try because I had seen the reviews or previews. And I'm like, it looks like I got to go train a horse and build stuff and sew my own clothing or whatever. I'm like, this doesn't sound fun at all. But I mean, I've spent no time on the horse things. I've ridden a horse for about 3 seconds in the game.
Yeah, I haven't taken advantage of that either because I keep finding situations where it was a waste of time to get on the horse to try to ride it to where I was going. So, but I do love that some people, their whole thing in the game is to tame beasts and stuff. I don't know. It's fascinating that you can do.
Yeah. Because not almost any animal, any large animal in the game you can attempt to ride, although you can't then check them into the stable. Like if you ride a bear, you can't take that into the stable and get it back. I don't think you can. I've never gotten a bear all the way to the stable.
I don't think you can, but maybe you can. I don't know, Dustin, this just is such like a game for you, man. I can't wait for you to play it someday.
I need to find a Switch.
You still have your Wii U. I heard that port's awesome.
Yeah, but I'd rather
get a Switch.
Excuse to buy a new system.
Yeah, that's totally. I mean, you have to for professional purposes.
That's right. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I've been playing it on the Wii U because I already had the Wii U, so I pre-ordered it, and I didn't really want to. I'm going to wait to buy the Switch. That's again with Nintendo portable systems, you never buy the first revision.
See, and my problem is I did get the first version, and it's because I got all paranoid about it being in short supply, which is a silly reason to justify pre-ordering something. They're clearly going to make enough of them.
Right, but they're going to make the Lite and the XL and kids version that's indestructible.
Yeah, and
right, they'll do all those. So you can wait, and then by then maybe the first expansion pack for Breath of the Wild will come out, and then I'll buy it on there, and a year from now start it over with new content. And knowing what I know now, like the game would have been a lot easier to start with. I mean, of course, part of it is just that, that feeling at the beginning of the game where it's just, this is a desolate world and you're completely on your own and you're just barely trying to survive.
It really does do an incredible job of making you feel that way. You feel very tiny. And so when you are successful, it feels really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then as you get pretty far in the game, you get powerful enough to constantly feel like you're going to die if you take a wrong step. There's still plenty of times when you might just fall and die. I mean, I still do dumb things like that. Where it's like, oh, I can just make up the mountain. I'll just press leap one more time, and then you plummet to your death. I mean,
are you waiting until you can have the TV to yourself, or do you just sit back and play on the Wii U tablet?
Can you play? I don't think you can play it on the tablet.
Oh, you can't?
I don't think so.
I just assumed you could.
It sounds like a horrible way to play it, really.
Switch.
There are a few times you have to. So there are some of the shrine puzzles you have to use the tab. It switches over to the tablet.
Oh,
but there's no
really?
screen. Yeah, you're just using it for the motion control.
Oh.
So some of the shrine puzzles you have to manipulate an object, and I guess with the Switch you'd probably just manipulate, swing the whole Switch around or whatever.
Yeah.
But then you use the pad, and those, by the way, a lot of those you can cheat at.
Yes.
I mean, there are a few of those I figured out how to solve. Like, there's one where it's like a maze. I don't know if you found this one yet, but it's like a maze, and you're supposed to, those tilt maze puzzles. I hate those things. I hate them in real life.
Oh, yeah. There was like a labyrinth.
Yeah.
That labyrinth wooden game. I think I know the shrine you're talking about.
Yeah, but at some point I was playing with it, and I just like spun the whole thing around, and then when the ball lands in the labyrinth, it landed like directly on the exit. You can manipulate it just that way. So
that one was a bitch too. So I'm glad that there is a way to cheat in that one. People deserve that.
I definitely cheated at it, and a lot of the shrines I cheated at. Well, I feel like I cheated. I mean, maybe that's the way they were designed to make it feel like you got away with something when really that's what you were supposed to do.
Yeah. Cool. I'm excited to get to the end of it. Now I don't know, but can you go back and is there like a new game plus or anything? Like, can I see credits and then go back and just do shrines because it's fun?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm actually, because I don't buy that many new games a year. Not because I'm like poor or anything, but just I don't buy that many new games. I got, like a job and kids and life and all that junk. So I just figured I'd stretch this thing out. Also, I figure it's going to be 5 years before there's another new Zelda game that I like this much. So I'm just kind of going to stretch it out. I'm going to see if I can get all the shrines and as many of the side quests as I can figure out before I make a run at the last boss. I mean, I realize like from the beginning of the game, you can make a run at the last boss if you just want to go. After I'm done, I'm going to watch one of those speed runs where people go directly to the last boss. Because I'm like, how do you do? Like, you just grab a pointy stick and you run to the end. I have no clue how you could survive that.
Me either. So I'm motivated to get to the end so I can start digging through the internet to see what I missed and see what craziness people are getting into.
Yeah.
I love playing the game with headphones, but I also like it on my television. And on the Switch, you can't do both. But if I had it on the Wii, even if I was playing on my TV, I would play exclusively with headphones in. The sound design in the game's incredible.
Yeah, it's a really low key soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like the typical Zelda game where you're in the overworld and there's just blaring overworld music. And I get it because you'd go insane.
Yes,
it's got to be really ambient.
Yeah, and they nail it. And there's little Easter eggs to other games and stuff that you'll recognize. It's fun. So.
Oh, yeah.
Good
Great
deal.
Game. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you've got your eye on? Even if it's like one of your backlog games or something coming up for the show in the next couple weeks?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going to be my next game after I finish this. I might switch back. I mean, I've been trying to wrap up. I've played through the first 10 Final Fantasy games now. That was one of the goals I set a couple years ago. And I was thinking about doing some of the side games like Final Fantasy IV, The College Years, or Final Fantasy VII, it's a prequel, right?
Wait, there really is Final Fantasy College Years?
What? Rob, you played this one.
It's called The After Years.
Oh, okay. That would have been amazing if they were just huge Saved by the Bell fans.
So yeah, I was thinking of then doing like the side games to the original Final Fantasy series next. It depends. Like by the time I finish Breath of the Wild, like Ys 8 might be out in America, and then that'll be the next game that I play.
Yeah, I remember you getting through a lot of Ys games on the PSP, I think.
I played through most of them like on the original systems when they were new, and then PSP had the Ys 1 and 2 remake and Ys 7 and the Ys 3 remake, and then Vita had the latest games are on Vita.
Okay.
So I've been playing through them on there. And yeah, it's a great series too. Like Part 5 is the only one that I really haven't liked at all.
I picked up 3 on the Genesis from just hearing you guys talk about it. I saw it in the store and I was like, he likes this. I might like it.
You might like it. Yeah, 3 is maybe the more controversial one in the series. Like the remake of 3 called Oath and Felghana is absolutely amazing. The original 3 is like a Zelda 2 style game, or like Faxanadu. So if you like those style games, you're going to like it a lot. Some people didn't like it because it's very different from the other games in the series.
I'm fresh, so... and I do like... I've never played Faxanadu, but I do like Zelda 2.
Okay. Well, Falcom, who did Ys 3, did Faxanadu also.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't like their first ever side-scrolling RPG. I
have that cart. Josh, you guys remember Gooch and the Douchebag, right? Remember Gooch? He sent that to me years ago. Someday I'll give it a whirl.
Oh yeah, you got to play that. I don't know how well it's aged. I remember being pretty amazed by it.
That's okay. I can deal with some rough edges on an old game. Good deal. Well, Dustin, man, what have you been playing?
So it's actually really cool that it worked out this way because I played 3 games. One was on PS1 and the other one was on Dreamcast. So 2/3 is retro. But I finished Ghost in the Shell on that was not this weekend, but last weekend.
Yeah.
And that game was good. It was really good. The story was borderline incomprehensible. I don't know that it actually, like, I don't know that there was a through line. Because it would be like, you're going through this building and you fight some dudes, and then the building's about to blow up, and then the next level it didn't, and you're fighting like on the roof of the building, and like it's really weird. But the gameplay itself was good, and all the cutscenes were really well done. And that was this is the 3rd game for Cyberpunk Saturdays, right?
Yeah.
That we finished.
I appreciate you saying "we" in there, as though like we're an entity of some sort. You know what I mean?
Yes, the classically hive mind.
Yeah.
And then Solly has, I think, he's realized that there are other 3D Sonic games.
Okay.
From YouTube, basically. And he saw Sonic Adventure and he wanted to play that. So we've been kind of playing through that a little bit. He actually, like, he's starting to get where he can just play games.
No training wheels.
Yeah. Occasionally he'll hit something that is a bit of an obstacle, and he'll just be like, "Dad, get me through this." not because he can't. He just like,
feeling
I don't
lazy.
want to bother. Yeah.
That the 2D. I'm getting them mixed up. Mania and
Forces is the 3D one, and Mania is the 2D one.
Mania. I saw some screenshots of that, and it looks fantastic. So hopefully it plays really well.
That's another reason I need to Switch.
We got a birthday coming up, so
Yeah, Father's Day, Solomon's birthday's coming up, Christmas.
you'll have it. It'll happen.
Just whip out the puppy dog eyes.
What are you playing Sonic Adventure on? Is that that's the first? That was the big Dreamcast one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I played some of 2.
Dreamcast.
Awesome. S-Video or composite? Using that crummy composite signal.
I have S-Video, but my little upscaler thing that I use for all of my composite stuff, the S-Video it won't pull the S-Video for some reason.
I wonder if it's like out of spec or something like that.
It must be. I wonder, because its main purpose is to switch PAL to NTSC. So I'm thinking maybe PAL S-Video is in like one spectrum, and maybe the NTSC S-Video is in something that it just doesn't see. I don't know.
It's not working. We know that much.
Yeah. Right.
Now, of course, you realize the correct answer to what your Dreamcast is hooked up to is VGA.
Right.
I thought you needed a converter thing. Didn't you need a VGA box for the Dreamcast?
You do, yeah. I mean, but this is one of the things where, like, buying an original Sega one is expensive, but there's a lot of off-brand ones that work and are pretty cheap.
Cool. I remember it being a big deal at a game store that we had here.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing like maybe Power Stone 2 or something like that, and there was a big deal that they had the VGA converter. I didn't know any different. So, do you have Sonic Adventure 2?
Mm-hmm.
I guess you'll have to tuck that away.
Yeah.
Bust that out in a year or two. So you did start another game for Cyberpunk Saturdays.
I did, yeah. This past Saturday, we played Remember Me. And this is a game I'm playing on the 360, and it came out back in 2013, and it had kind of middling reviews. It didn't do well, but the game's all right.
It looks awesome. I love the setting.
It's pretty cool. I think maybe if it had been something other than what it is, like it's kind of a third-person brawler. It's really trying to ape Batman's fighting mechanic, the kind of like punch a few times when you see an exclamation mark over somebody's head, you dodge, that kind of thing. Like maybe if it had been like an RPG or maybe even like an adventure game where there was no combat at all, it would have fared better because the combat itself is kind of meh. It's kind of interesting, but right now there's no challenge to it.
Okay.
At least in the early sections of the game. But the story seems cool. The art design is excellent. Like the setting is awesome. Everything else is firing on all cylinders.
I was impressed with what I was able to watch. You had a 2-hour stream, and what I watched, I thought, I love the visual aesthetic to where you are. It feels perfectly cyberpunk.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to super enjoy that one.
Oh,
so
yeah.
far, so good.
Have you had this one for a while? I've never heard of this game before.
So when did I buy that? Oh, you know what? I had it for forever, and I never played it. But it was free on PS Plus. So,
so that's what exposed you to it?
Yeah, but I never played it on the PS3 because I just had it set on my hard drive, and then I stopped paying for PS Plus.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then I started doing the Cyberpunk Saturdays, and I was like, well, damn, now I need that Cyberpunk game. So I bought it for cheap off eBay.
Nice.
And, yeah, I recommend it so far.
Cool. I played some Rad Racer 2 yesterday, and I don't care for that as much as the first one. There's some weird quirks to it. It plays better. It has a smoother animation to it, but you have to choose either sound effects or music. In the first game, you hear yourself zooming by somebody, or if you press up and you're in the higher gear, you can hear the engine rev. Mm-hmm. It's blank. It's very jarring to play without that. And then if you do select the sound effects, it also feels very weird, especially when you're streaming it. It's silence other than sound effects. So yeah. I don't.
Now, that was not produced by Square, right? I mean, this was like a US only release.
Square was on the splash screen.
Yeah, but I thought
so. I don't know.
It out to like the D team or something because it was a US only game.
I don't know. You're probably right.
I gotta look this up.
I had never heard of it as a kid. I saw it for cheap at a gaming store. I was like, there was a sequel. First one's pretty good. I like that game a lot. This can't be worse than $5.
You know, I think Road Rash did that with the music or sound effects. Not both.
I don't like it. Yeah, that does sound familiar with Road Rash. What threw me off was I thought something was wrong with my capture equipment.
Oh, no.
Because it was just... I felt like no audio. And then if you hit select, then you can cycle through the different songs. Any luck, Hugh, finding out the answer to that?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at it here, and like, I mean, it says published by Squaresoft, but like none of the developers are the folks who worked on the original game.
Okay.
And again, that kind of gels with my recollection here, which was the game was more popular in America than in Japan. So they made a sequel that was just for the US, and because US always kind of was viewed as, I don't know, the inferior market or something, they kind of did a rush job on this sequel. I think like Nobuo Uematsu might be the only person who worked on both games. Okay.
If you look at the cover art, it's very clearly geared towards Americans versus the first one. It's all radical and 90s. like,
yeah. Road Rash
was either or.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the A team at Square at the time was like Nasir Jabeli was like the main programmer for Square at the time because he had coded Final Fantasy and Secret of Mana and Rad Racer and a bunch of other stuff. and they farmed off Rad Racer II to the B team. Like, I think, again, the B team probably produced Final Fantasy X or something now, but at the time they were the B team.
It's okay, but the songs aren't as good. The controls are better. It's not quite as punishing. It's weird. The wrecking animation doesn't last as long, but the gap between the checkpoints seems longer, so it's just as punishing to wreck. But I don't know. It's okay. If you're interested in checking the game out, you can go to our YouTube channel and see our stream. Also, we've gone a little longer than I expected, so I'll be pretty brief with this. But I wanted to give a little bit of clarification. I'm not actually playing Dungeons & Dragons with my friend. It's something called 13th Age, and it's like D&D. He chose that over 5th edition D&D and some other games. But this seems pretty cool. Rob, I am a monk as my class and a forest elf as my race. So I'm like a Kung Fu Legolas, I guess.
Also, that's a great band name.
Kung Fu Legolas? Yes, actually, that's really good. You're a big fan of this and your experience with it. How would I even start with a backstory? I had no idea that I needed to develop a character backstory. I thought this was just a long board game, and I have all these things that I need to get ready for when we play. But I don't know what might, off the top of your head, be something that would even make sense for that class and race.
Well, the first thing I would tell anybody, if you want to make a backstory but you don't feel very creative, is don't be afraid to rip off TV and movies.
Okay.
That's what I do, but you just have to like put a new skin on it. So you can take any, movie or something where it's like, oh, I really like this character and I think they could sort of fit in my idea for this, D&D character, but you just kind of have to make it work. But yeah, if you're new to it, then it might be like tough to decide what sort of character you want to base it on, but maybe pick or choose between a couple of different things. So, let's see.
What would be some good monk movies or Kung Fu? Like, do I need to check out some, like, old school Jackie Chan? I did watch Crouching Tiger.
Nice.
Kind of get in the mood.
Yeah, Jackie Chan has put out a lot of great movies. I'd highly recommend Drunken Master.
Okay.
That's a good one. But, gosh, as far as elves, there's a couple of different ways you can play those. But, like, the Tolkien way to do things is kind of like the generic way to do it, but also, I'd say talk to the other players just about the game world, I guess. Like, and if there's, like, differences between that and the generic Lord of the Rings stuff. Because even if there isn't, then you can still think about, like, okay, what is it about elves that make them different? Like, okay, they like nature, they like hanging around in the forest and stuff, like...
See, I needed to pick a vice. Ooh. So since I'm from the nature arena, right? I'm a forest elf. Mm-hmm. And I'm a monk. I'm trying to find enlightenment. So I think my vice should be some sort of, like, psychedelic mushroom tea, or... you know what I mean? Like a monk trying to be on, like, a desert spirit quest or whatever. But I ended up liking it too much and just like to drink psychedelics all day. I don't know another reason to... I don't know what another good vice would be for an elf or a monk, because I always picture them as accepting that they have no vices at this point. I don't know what to do from that perspective.
Yeah, that is actually kind of like a monk with a bad habit does kind of sound counterintuitive, because usually the one thing about monks is that they're trying to, like, take control of themselves and be very disciplined. But I guess that also gets back into the drunken master thing. Is that just not even limited to the Jackie Chan movies, but like the idea of a drunken master isn't just necessarily somebody who's alcoholic, but maybe somebody who drinks to loosen up and to, maybe let go a little bit. Although again, with a disciplined monk, that might be kind of different. But again, maybe that's how you'd rather play, rather than somebody who's just like constantly, overly strict with themselves. Maybe somebody who's finding things to overcome inside themselves. Like, okay, I used to drink too much or something, and I'm trying to be better, but also this is what gets me fighting.
Yeah. I did have an idea, though. So, you know how, like, those, like, Shaolin monks do the sand sculpture things where they place the individual grains of sand or whatever and then wash it all away? Since I'm an elf and I'll be old as hell, I'm thinking that I could be an archer that between, like, 100 and 300 yards away, I'm throwing arrows up and they're landing as I would normally place a grain of sand. So if you were to look from a tree, you could see a picture that I'm making by just launching arrows into a field with like perfect precision. And I spent hundreds. I need to figure out what I was doing for a couple hundred years, I guess. But by myself, I don't know what to do. So I'm all over the place. But Drunken Master from Jackie Chan, that'll be a good starting point.
Yeah, I like too though. What'll help in role playing, like. Because just playing the game as a board game, some people do it that way. But other people, when they play D&D, and usually the people running the game, if they require a background from you, they might be more into the story. And those people kind of care more about like characters and personalities of the characters more than just the dice rolls.
Yeah, and that's how this group is. They're way more into having fun and doing the character development and inside jokes between the group and whatnot, and it's intimidating because all of these people know what the hell they're doing and they're into it, and I feel like I am like 2 guitar lessons into learning how to play guitar, and they're like, here, you have to go play with Soundgarden, so good luck. So I don't know. Yeah, well, wish me luck in that.
Okay. Another tip I'll give you is that, like, if you can't decide any sort of like personality traits or quirks for a fictional character to play, then just think about what you would be like normally.
Okay.
And take elements of your personality that you wouldn't be afraid to put into this fictional character. Because a lot of people make the mistake of being like, I'm going to say that my character has all these personality traits on paper, but in the game I'm not actually going to play any of that because I don't know how.
Yeah.
So if you don't like necessarily want to play something that's really different from you as a person, then just make the character like you.
Okay. All right. I feel better. Good starting point for me. And one before I get to my next thing, I do have. If I remember, I'll write you guys an email. I do have a bootleg cart that has DuckTales 1 and 2, Little Samson, and the rare, like, blockbuster only Flintstones. That's $1 million. But nice. On the cart, I think that they put the PAL version of DuckTales 1 because it runs so fast. But the others are regular NTSC. So whatever ROM site they stole the ROMs from, they didn't pay attention to the U or the E next to DuckTales 1 relative to the others.
Ooh, you know what? With that new like Disney Afternoon Collection game, someone and someone will do this soon if they haven't already, has got to analyze whether or not Square released used ROMs from the internet on those collections. Because Nintendo has been accused of using the Super Mario Brothers ROM from the internet in their own virtual console releases.
It's not related to either of those, but I just saw something else where someone was accused of doing that. Yeah. Isn't that hilarious, though? They have to go steal their own IP.
Yeah,
because they've trashed the code or whatever. Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the thing. Like, back in the day, they probably wrote the game, and the source code was on some... it wouldn't even an SVN, what you got back then, CVS, something like that, some repository, and then they upgraded some, their computers, and no one could read the old repository anymore, or someone deleted it, or whatever. And now they're like, oh, I want to re-release this game. Where can I get a copy of Super Mario Brothers?
I had an issue with OBS during one of our episodes, and I had to figure out a way to rip Twitch streams, which is illegal, but I had to do it for our own show so I could actually publish the podcast. It was a bizarre road to go down. Try to find the tools of piracy for that stuff. Hey, what's up, Legend? Thanks for joining. What's up, Crazy Penguin? And then also, real quick, I was in the mood for Star Wars, so I played through the Battlefront VR Star Wars mission on PlayStation VR. And it's silly and short, but it's really fun. You feel as close to being in an X-Wing as I think you possibly could at this point.
Is it the trench run?
No. It's like pre-Rogue One stuff. It's like an escort mission, and they have you fly around and fight TIE fighters, and then you blow up a Star Destroyer laser, and then go to hyperspace back to the ship.
Sweet.
I'm hoping that there will be some sort of VR quirk with the Battlefront 2 when it comes out. Oh yeah, because Justin, I didn't get to talk to you about it. Walt Williams, that wrote Spec Ops: The Line, is writing the story for Battlefront 2. So Battlefront 1 didn't have even a single-player campaign, and a lot of people yelled at him for it. And so EA is leaning pretty hard, it looks like, into taking the story seriously. So
Sweet.
Maybe it'll be sweet. I wouldn't think it'd be that good, but Spec Ops: The Line was awesome.
Yeah.
So, Hugh and Rob, Dustin and I had some sort of an agreement. Well, I don't even, but I basically I had to play Spec Ops: The Line because of some reason related to Dustin, and it was awesome.
I had to play Walking Dead.
That's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. Just like, what, you haven't played that? You have to play it. I'm like, all right, I'll do that if you do this.
Nice.
That's okay, Legend. Appreciate you stopping by and saying hi. We will, we'll have the archive up Friday, so you'll be able to catch it there. Also, I've been playing Blaster Master Zero on the Switch. I was going to stream the rest of my playthrough for it, but I just couldn't stop playing. I just wanted to play the game, so I decided to say screw the stream and just play through it, and it's great. It's really easy, but I'm okay with that. To go from Zelda to something nice and easy with great music is okay with me. It takes almost too many of the rough edges off of Blaster Master, but whatever. Like, not everything has to be difficult.
Yeah.
And then finally, I uninstalled Rocket League. I don't know if there's been a game I've played more over the last couple of years than Rocket League, but the chat completely ruined everything. It didn't matter if I was getting yelled at or the opponents were bickering at each other. It just got into a situation where the chat was so annoying and you need it to communicate. Like, hey, I'm defending, you take the shot, or all of these ways to play the game appropriately as a teammate were out of the window. And it's just vitriol. And I also hate jumping into the middle of games. And if you don't play ranked, you can just get thrown in and you're losing by 7 goals with a minute to go. And then you just have to sit around and wait for another full complete game. But then people just leave and come in. So since I want it to be structured and play a full game, but I want chat to be useful, and that doesn't exist anymore, I've decided to not play Rocket League for quite a while.
I figured after you made that goal at the very end of the game, you were just like, well, it's not going to get any better than that.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet, though.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that was one of my greatest moments of Rocket League. I scored a goal with time completely expiring, and I was within a second when the ball hit the ground and bounced into the goal. I thought it was going to hit the ground and game be over an inch before the goal, but it actually went into the goal, which is cool. Kevin says the Retro League, what? He says, can't stay, but he was, would he go to Twitch for the? Oh, yes, we have stopped using Twitch. YouTube's just started working better, Kevin. Sorry about that. Oh, we just lost Dustin. Oh, well, we're almost done, so we should be okay. I wonder if he did that on purpose. All right, well, I guess, guys, we'll get to comments and then call it a show. Kevin's got a good question here. He's just commenting on last episode. Kevin in the chat. What's going on, man? He says, sheesh, I had no idea about the Easter eggs in Metal Gear Solid 4. He played through all the games in chronological order, and 4 was the last one that he played. He says he and Zarek should do a Metal Gear Solid podcast. He can talk for hours about that series. Although, have you guys ever played a Metal Gear? I haven't played any of them before.
I don't think I have either.
I've played Metal Gear.
The MSX?
The NES version.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess technically I've played that too, but for 15 minutes.
Wait, didn't you play the Snake's Revenge LCD game?
Oh, yeah.
There was a Snake's Revenge LCD game?
Yeah, and it talks.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the old Tiger Electronic type?
Yeah, I think it was even Tiger brand, but yeah, it was when they were experimenting with really primitive, text-to-speech.
Okay.
Basically, so it's really distorted voice.
Like B-17 bomber, like that little attachment.
Yeah, just like that.
And I'm back.
Yeah, well, I got nervous there for a second.
So anyways, I can declare Snake's Revenge LCD the best Metal Gear game.
Fighting words. Hugh, I will blindly back you on that. Not enough cardboard boxes, but...
Well, so I guess now I'm going to have to go on to a Metal Gear wiki and then, learn all about some of the intricate twists and turns in MGS4 or something.
Make sure to edit the wiki so that it quotes Hugh Johnson.
Well, I was going to say try and apply, make up a story for the LCD game. Because, all you'll get for story is, you go into a room in the side of the hall, and there'll be a guy who either helps you or, shoots you. Okay,
you write that, and then if you could send that to me, and I'll just do a find and replace, and I've got my D&D backstory.
Nice. There you go.
He also goes on to say, he said even though he beat Metal Gear Solid 4 recently, he couldn't see the credits because his PS3 kept turning into a jet engine. And he said he had to keep rebuilding a database that he could never get through the final cutscene, which is about an hour. He had to watch it on YouTube, and it was very anticlimactic. That's a bummer if you put all that time into it. He also says, as for the refund policy, he had purchased, because we talked about refund policies last week, he purchased Mirror's Edge Catalyst. He hated it. He played it for more than 2 hours, and it was $25, and that's Canadian, so that's what, $4.50 here. He said he bought Need for Speed Rivals for $20, and he hated it. He bought Battlefield 4 and couldn't get into it. He says he's bought so many games that he's just hated, and he's stuck with them. He says, see the non-digital world, if a game sucks, I can't return it, but I can trade in for something else if he has the physical copy. He said, instead of a refund policy, I wish these digital games would enable a trade-in offer. Trade in digital games for the ones that you don't like for something else, like a theme, avatar, games, DLC. He said it's stupid, but I feel like my money would be better spent on something else. He also says, speaking of ripped-off consoles, I own, 10 million? There's no commas. Do they not have commas and numbers in Canada? He said, I own 10 million games in one device. It's shaped like an N64 controller and had 2 AV cables in to plug into the TV. He said it has 58 versions of Super Mario Brothers. He says what the difference is beyond me. There's so many. It has Aladdin, not the good one. I wonder if he means Super Nintendo version, because I liked the Sega Aladdin. He says, and a shitload of Space Invaders and Pac-Man, which goes to the quiz earlier. He says, I think I spent $60 on the thing back in the day. When I was in Portugal as a kid, I saw it, and I thought it was a PlayStation, but rather it was called the Fun Station, and it had Excite Bike running. Go figure. He said, I thought that Portugal was in the past for some reason, so it made sense to me. He said, I also don't watch a lot of YouTube, but here's my YouTube channel of the week. Kodikarus. He's funny, his editing's funny, and I hate him for being successful at such a young age. Check him out. He says, I gave Breath of the Wild a break to play Kingdom Hearts 2.8 remixed, revised, pew pew pew. He said, I need to beat it so I can take my Wii U to my room again. He had to delete all of his games to make room for Kingdom Hearts. But I don't want to beat it because I'm going to miss it. But I do want to beat it so he can hear the spoiler cast. That's pretty incredible if someone's willing to beat a game just to hear me and my buddy talk about it. He says he's got a question of the week for all of us. He said, are there any games that you've played that take place in your city or town? He just found out that, again, that he had zero interest in, takes place in Toronto. It's Soma. He said other games... I know, Dustin. Outlast 2 came out.
Yeah, I need to buy that.
I'm excited for you to talk about that. I know that's one of your favorite games. He said also Scott Pilgrim takes place in Toronto. Rampage World Tour, there's a level there. And he says actual sunlight. And that's just off the top of his head. I live in a really small town. I'm from a small town, so I don't have... There's no Northwest Ohio video games that I'm aware of. Closest that we would have is like... was it Watch Dogs that was in Detroit, maybe?
Watch Dogs in Chicago.
Watch Dogs Chicago? Okay. Well, there's one for you, Hugh.
Yeah. I haven't played it. I don't know it's Chicago. I mean, we have... Like, I think Perfect Dark is technically set in Chicago.
Okay.
Lethal Enforcers is set in Chicago.
That game
A lot of things are mob themed.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
Scarface probably has some levels in it that we game.
Yeah, stuff like that. Michael Jordan, Chaos in the Windy City. There you go. That's my pick.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good one. Rob, you've been in I think Wisconsin over the years and Utah. Have you? Is there anything that are you like me in Ohio, or we're neglected by game developers?
Nothing in the specific town that I'm aware of, but I just did a quick Google search, and apparently The Last of Us takes place in Utah. Or at least part of the story does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm assuming any video games based on the 2002 Winter Olympics.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, 2002. Those don't feel that long ago.
Yeah, see, even just opening up the state of Utah, like, it looks like you have to have a game that takes place in multiple states. Because, like, The Last of Us is also in Wyoming and Pennsylvania. And then Horizon Zero Dawn, I guess, parts of that are in Utah, but that's like...
Whoa, really?
Well, it's I mean, I guess the story takes place super far in the future,
yeah.
So it's like after an apocalypse and then more time. So, I mean...
I'm a few hours into that, and I guess I never even would have considered the United States as the potential terrain.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty cool. That's going to change my perspective on what I look for in the environment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that maybe that was a spoiler or something, but it's on Wikipedia. I'm guessing.
I guess technically it would be, but it doesn't. I don't see how that would really affect anything.
Yeah, I'm guessing they're not going to pull a Planet of the Apes and be like, "Oh, it was Utah all along."
I was going to say like a gorilla dressed up as what? John Smith? Would that be who that would be out there?
Joseph Smith.
Joseph Smith. That's what it is. He's looking into a top hat. So, I mean, I can't even think of a game that takes place in Ohio. So, there is that game Detroit coming out. That's my favorite sports city. So, I'll count that, I guess. It's the closest I can get, Kevin. Yeah.
I'll have to admit, like, when I started this whole idea of learning how to program Sega Genesis, my original idea was to do a game that I called Iowa Driving Simulator.
Okay.
Because driving through Iowa, which I've had to do, like I've had to drive to Des Moines before, it's really just you drive in a straight line and the scenery is all cornfields. So I figured that would be pretty easy to program.
Yes. Would you take the route of Penn and Teller and make the alignment off a little bit?
No. There were going to be other cars.
Okay.
It would mostly be just going down a road that's straight. I was going to do like an overhead style driving game, so there'd be like you'd have to change lanes, and then the scenery would just all be corn.
Use a 6-button controller so that you can like flip on a turn signal or whatnot.
Yeah, turn signal, brake, change music station, all that stuff.
I'm excited to play Paprium from Watermelon Games because they designed. They were the ones that did Pure Solar, and their new game is taking full advantage of the 6-button controller. And other than a fighting game, I've never played a game that did that. So, fingers crossed that's cool. It's a role-playing game, but it's a beat-em-up.
Yeah, I think we've seen footage of it.
Be interesting to see how that turns. It looks gorgeous from what they've shown. Mm-hmm. Fingers crossed. So, all right, Kevin. Yeah. Oh, Dustin. I mean, obviously, there's got to be like a Nashville, like Grand Ole Opry stage and like Guitar Hero or something. But I can't think of another.
Maybe like if there was a racing game, like Cruising USA.
Oh,
Nashville. If there was a level with like banjo music in it, it was probably Nashville.
Bristol's not far away from you, and that's a huge track.
They race there.
Yeah,
right.
That's a big racing venue.
They turn left.
Yes, that is. I think they called that one the short track because it's small, I guess.
Seems prejudice.
I agree. I'm short, so I'll sign that change.org petition. Make Bristol longer. All right, cool. Well, that's it for Kevin. Thanks for writing in. If anybody would like to send us fan mail or have us ask us questions, you can send it to classicelite@gmail.com. And then Dumez had a couple of funny comments last week I'm going to go over real quick, and then we will call it a show. He did. I made a comment last week that we hadn't heard from him, so maybe he didn't listen to the show. His response was basic. I did listen to last week's show. I just guess I had nothing to say. Like, he always has something to say, so now I feel like he was incredibly bored. He made a reference to, like, moms calling him Nintendo tapes. Did your parents call them Nintendo tapes? Or cassettes? Or did they know they were called games?
My mom knew, but my father, I'm not 100% positive he knows what a video game is.
My dad has, he understands that it exists, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he sort of, if you mention any video game, he pictures like Pac-Man.
Yeah. Although my dad did get really into Mega Man 2 when I was a kid. That was pretty cool. That and Lee Trevino's Fighting Golf. He liked those.
Oh, yeah. Same here.
Really? Did your dad really
my
play?
dad.
Lee Trevino's Fighting Golf's an excellent game.
Yeah.
It's the best golf game on NES, like by a mile. He did get the 18 Heart Wolf. He got the new Hearthstone Warrior Legend spell quest, and it's totally OP. He sent me a warrior deck list that he built that he's been crushing people with, so I'm going to try that out. He also says Capcom CPS2 boards are the suicide battery boards, and there's a lot of other companies that use them too. Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 2 Super and above. I thought I had mentioned that I thought Street Fighter was involved in that. Do you guys know much about the suicide boards, or do you pay attention to like arcade games in general?
Just a little bit. I think we had mentioned on the Retro League a couple weeks back this thing, but I don't remember what the context was. But, we hadn't heard the nickname for him or anything. It was just like, oh, there was this, anti-piracy thing that Capcom put in their games starting with Super Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
That was the first I'd heard of it. It was just a couple weeks ago.
I had heard there was an arcade podcast that I had listened to, and they had talked about it before. There's a guy on YouTube I watch, and he just rebuilds arcade machines, and it's awesome. He says, wow, it sure is a good thing that Nintendo canceled the NES Classic, because holy smokes, there was totally no other way to emulate NES games for free until the NES Classic arrived. This is the dumbest reason, if it is why they did it. I thought that was pretty funny. It is. I mean, if you really want to do this, get a RetroPie off Amazon.
Yeah.
You know, it's $80 and it comes preloaded with all the software. And I hear the Raspberry Pi 3s do a beautiful job with emulation. All right, well, that's going to be it for the show this week. So Hugh and Rob, thank you very much for coming on the show. Rob, one last, I guess, thing. Where's the best place for people to find you and subscribe and listen or watch and all that stuff?
Just over at theretroleague.com, or if you prefer to get your stuff via YouTube, then just look for the YouTube channel, The Retro League.
Yep.
Also, just for some context, I couldn't help but giggle a little bit it was 2 weeks ago, episode 227, when you guys were talking about the 13-year-old who was mopping up the old guys at a pinball tournament.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, like, well, for anybody who's never listened to the Retro League, we are the cranky old guys.
Well, I'm glad the youngins are there to keep you guys on your toes. You guys really do have an awesome show. I've listened for a really long time. I was part of that Club 22 or whatnot.
22, yeah.
I've been there for a really long time. So it's amazing that all that time has passed up to this point. You guys are on year 8. I think we're on year 7. That's amazing. That's really cool. And then Hugh, you've also got your personal website where you do like game scans, and you're hosting your Genesis stuff there too, right?
Yeah, I post my Genesis stuff there and GitHub and all that stuff. I mean, the sad thing is, like, I've reached this point. Like, I'm not a very good Sega Genesis programmer. I'm terrible at it. I just want to get that there. But I've gotten to the point where, like, I'm Googling how to do something on the Sega Genesis. Like, hold on, how do I, I'm trying to think of a random example, something I've been stuck on. Like, how do I change the sprite link order in Sega Genesis? I'll Google, like, Sega Genesis programming sprite link order, and now, like, my site comes up. Like, when me, who has, again, no credibility on this, turns out, like, number 1 on Google search results for this stuff, it's trouble.
That's pretty funny. But old, like, video, old catalog scans and stuff like that are there. It's a really fun thing to look through.
Mostly because of Breath of the Wild. I haven't been doing much on my site lately. Like, the only thing I've been doing in my spare time other than Breath of the Wild is the podcast. So that's kind of later on this year, I'll probably get back to doing some programming and other cool stuff. I got, like, one more catalog I want to post this year.
Cool.
And then I think I am going to never scan a catalog again because I've done way too many of them.
That's a very impressive. You're doing God's work on that one. But yeah, that's HughesJohnson.com, or it's Hugh Johnson, but add the S in there for spelling purposes. All right, everybody. This week we are going to use Yours Maye is the name of the artist. I've played this person before. Their song that I'm going to be playing is called Agartha. I don't know. It's just a cool, chill chiptune song. So you can find that linked in the description. If you're one of our audio listeners, please enjoy. Also, a big thank you to Ben Landis for letting us use his song Through the Forest as our intro music. Our RSS feed is available at classicelite.com. But also, if you like the audio podcast, you can find that through iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, SoundCloud, and all that fun stuff. And then on social media, we're most active on Twitter, lately Instagram. Dustin, now that I've passed the tutorial of internet hard mode,
right,
I'm loving Instagram. It is really cool. I'm a little lost, but it's still a lot of fun. Also, we do stuff on Facebook, and our YouTube channel is kind of the hub for all of our content. We also do stuff on Twitch and Beam. You'll see Tony streaming on Beam. He's been busy with work, but next week he should be back up and running there. Yeah, and that's it. So, Rob, Hugh, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Thanks for having us.
We'll have to do it again. I'm embarrassed that we hadn't had you on yet this far. So,
well, if you like our annual brackets, you can come on and talk about them. We'll do that later this year.
That would be sweet. Awesome. We can be the expert analysts because those guys on ESPN don't know what they're talking about anyways, so we'll fit right in.
Yeah, that's why they all got fired.
Oh my gosh, that was big news today. They let go of some, like, quote-unquote, Chicago, you should appreciate this, some made guys over there. Some on-air personalities that got fired today.
Yeah, I haven't seen the full list yet. I just know it was a massacre.
Like, yeah, 100 people that have, like, on-air responsibilities got let go. That's what they get for being TMZ instead of reporting on sports. So, oh well. All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next week for episode 230.
Boosh.
Adios.